Hey everybody, so this video is explaining the procedures for how we're doing remote learning the second time around. So we're in term 3 now and we've had one term of remote learning already. Basically the instructions haven't changed from last time, but I'm doing this video to remind you of what you should be doing in most lessons of science this term. So some lessons will be doing a different activity or a whole class activity, but most of the time you'll be doing working time on your activities for the topic. So let's go through the instructions and I'll explain everything step by step. So firstly, every lesson you should have your computer logged onto Compass and you should have the activities downloaded from Compass, which I'll get to in a second. You also obviously need to have your exercise book and pens and your science textbook too, which can be the physical copy or it can be the digital one on the website, the Oxford website. So if we have a live lesson, there might be an introduction activity or we might be doing a different activity. But if we're doing working time, and it will tell you on the lesson plan that we're working on activities, then this is the things you need to do. Firstly, you need to know what level you're working at. So every topic, we do a pre-assessment, and that tells you where you're starting in that topic. So that you're starting on content that's at your level. And you should all know your level, and you should have done a goal setting activity where you've set your learning goal and a target for what you want to reach by the end of the topic. So then you need to open up the activities for your level and find the activity that you were up to last lesson. So it's up to you to take responsibility for remembering where you're up to with your work. Each activity has a yellow box that has the instructions for that task. So every time you always need to read that yellow box first. And then you do that activity in your exercise book. It might have a video, it might be a worksheet, it might have a practical task. And you complete it in your workbook and then you move on to the next task. So the aim each period is to finish at least 3 activities. So if we have a double period, you should aim to finish 6 tasks at least. Some of them take less time than others, like writing out the learning intentions will only take a minute or 2, but doing a worksheet, that might take 15 minutes or more. So 3 activities is the average you should be doing each period, at a minimum. Obviously, if you're aiming to get to above the level, and you're only starting at a lower level, you should be finishing a lot more than 3 each period. So let's have a look at all these activities, and then we'll come back to when you finish a level. So firstly, all the resources are in Compass Resources. This is for Year 7 science, but it applies for Year 9 as well. So you go to the term that we're in term 3, and Year 7s are doing classification. So firstly, we've got the term schedule, which tells us which weeks we're doing each topic. Then there's the unit planner, which you should have stuck in your book. And you should have the remote learning instructions, which is this one here that we're going through now. Next, you actually need to get your activities. So we'll start at the level 5 one and we'll look at level 5. So here's level 5 here. So every level at the very start, it has the learning intentions. And this pen symbol tells you that you need to copy these intentions into your notebook. And we're always reading that yellow box and that tells us the same thing. So please copy the heading, classification level 5, and the learning intentions into your notebook. So the learning intentions are there for you to think about what you're going to learn at this level before you're doing it. So that would be one task. When you've copied those in, we'll move on to the next one. So whenever you see a Mr. Denmead Explains task, this is an instructional video where I explain some new concepts. And in this one, it's what is classification? So we're always reading that yellow box again. Watch the video about classification and answer the questions in your notebook when you've finished watching. Make sure you answer in full sentences. So we'll click the link and that will go to YouTube to watch the instructional video, and then you'll answer these questions in your notebook for you to demonstrate what you learned in the video. And you actually need to watch the video live. There's no point skipping ahead or watching it with no sound, because this is just as important as you listening in class when the teacher explains something new. So you need to make sure you watch the whole video all the way through. So when you've done that task, you'll move on to the next one. And this task is a literacy task. So again, we'll read the instructions and we'll complete that. That was an example of the task. Then there's another Mr. Denmead Explains. Then there's a practical activity. So in this one, it says write this heading in your notebook, read the instructions and write the answers in your book. And this task, you need to download something. And anytime you need to download extra resources, they will always be in that level folder. So we're at level 5, and this one has sorting objects, which you'll need to download, and that's a separate worksheet. Okay, so when you finish that one, you move on again. Every level, there's always a vocabulary practice, where you need to practice the keywords that you learned at that level. And also, the last thing to do each time is to do the reflection task. So it shows the learning intentions again. So the first thing to do is you read those learning intentions, and then you answer the questions in your notebook. Here are the 2 questions. So you're thinking, what did you accomplish, and why is it important that you learnt this? So reflecting on your learning is really important for you to revise and to think about yourself as a learner as well. So when you've finished that, then you've done everything for the level. And then it will tell you to collect the quiz from your teacher. So as you should know, you need to then take photos of all your work in your workbook and email it to me. So that's the last thing on our instructions. When you finish a level, make sure you do the reflection task, show your parent or guardian and get them to sign it, if they're home, obviously. If you can't, you can skip those 2. And then email me photos of your work, and I'll send you the quiz, which is a mini assessment task for you to demonstrate what you learnt at that level. Because I need to be able to check your understanding, and I need to give you some feedback to check that you're understanding the concepts so far. So once I've emailed you the quiz, you then complete it and email it back to me. And then I'll give you some feedback and I'll tell you if you've finished that level or not. And when you have finished the level, you download the next level and you keep on working. Okay, so that's the process for remote learning in term 3.